Hello everyone, Steve here for Who Took My Nice Miniature Wargaming. Welcome to the first in a series called Warriors of the Grim Dark. Now this is going to be a serial. It's going to look at specific units from all over Warhammer 40,000. Specifically focusing on units that don't get featured a lot, aren't seen a lot, and this is from my perspective, of course. Rare units. Stuff that just doesn't seem to hide on the battlefield for some reason. I want to explore the background, their fluff, and how they react on the battlefield, their stats and all that stuff. So without further ado, let's jump in the first episode. This is one that's near and dear to my heart. It's one I mentioned before, one I'm going to be currently working on as my year-long project. So here we go. Tyrannic War Veterans. What do they do? Who are they? Where'd they come from? Let me tell you. So, it's at the end of the first Tyrannic War. The Ultramarines have won. They've saved Ultramar as a whole. They've saved their homeworld of McCraig. But it's cost them. The first company is completely gone. Many other companies have taken grievous losses. Their lead holy guy, Cassius, has been almost completely wrecked by a rampaging Carnifex and is slowly being rebuilt with bionics. So the chapter has some rebuilding to do. And part of this is coming to terms with the loss that they suffer at the hands of the Tyranids. So Cassius, upon recovery, decides that it's time to build a specific strike force just to take out the Tyranids. He sees this as a holy duty. He sees the Tyranid as sort of a punishment for mankind's lack of vigilance. And he decides that he needs to create something in order to specifically fight the Tyranids and wipe them from the galaxy. So he decides to create this small brotherhood within the Ultramarines, the Tyrannic War Veterans. This disturbs some of his battle brothers. They see this could be a break from the Codex Astartes. Even Calgar is worried at first. He's not quite sure. So he calls the Conclave of Hera. And during this, every Ultramarine gets a chance to voice his opinion on it. Cassius says they will follow strictly, they will adhere to the Codex, but they will be designed to get revenge for the fallen First Company. And almost like a trick of destiny, a planet called Espandor comes to attack the Tyranids, and Calgar says, "Fine, Cassius, take these men, which only number in several dozens, and defeat these Tyranids." He goes. They wipe out the Tyranid menace. They don't suffer a single casualty. Come back, and Calgar says, "Yes, fine. It'll be sanctioned." I have a quote here. He says, "There's nothing to permit here. Cassius is indeed correct in declaring that such a force would be in accordance with our Primarch's wishes. Therefore, Cassius will lead the veterans, and together they will carry the very spirit of our chapter." All right? So Cassius has the go-ahead. Now, so basically, they have their own strike cruiser, and what happened is they need their own armor. They need their own identities. So they took the armor plates of all that had fallen, and they reforged them into the special armor. A way to really honor first, to say, you destroyed what was here, and now we will use it to destroy you. They were given their own new symbol, which is on their right pauldron, which is a Tyranid skull with a sword jammed through the top of it. They are given hellfire rounds in their bolters, so they can wound any Tyranid creature. And basically, even the bolters themselves are revered artifacts now. These are recovered from the dead First Company. They were cleansed, and they were bestowed to each veteran personally by Calgar himself. So now you've got this small, unique fighting force, which still adheres to the Codex. They have the white trim, the white helmets. They are still First Company Marines. Yeah, so they have this unique fighting force, and it is very unique because they don't recruit new members. They are only as many as there are from the original survivors that were moved up to the first company who decided to join us. And then the Ultramarines have fought the Tyranids many times after, but they don't recruit new members. It is sort of this unique veteran squad that's whole purpose is to, be a sort of a light to take the fight to the Tyranids, to fight them wherever, and help other chapters. They've worked with other chapters, the Death Watch, for instance, in taking down the Tyranid to teach them and to basically be sort of a hope for the future, because the Ultramarines will have another major battle with the Tyranid. And these guys might be the only hope that the Eastern Fringe, let alone the Imperium, has to truly defeat a Tyranid menace. So that's some sort of the background. Next, we're going to go on to what do they do on the tabletop? What makes this unit so unique? And why don't a lot of people use it? So first off, it's a small unit. I have actually I printed out the data slate here, so I have it in front of me. So there are 92 points for 4 of them. Why 4? Because there's 2 reasons. One is fluff-wise, one is real-world. So the fluff-wise, they are smaller, right? It says in here that they're only numbered in the dozens, right? Maybe 12, 24, somewhere in there. Maybe a bit more. So they are smaller squad sizes. They're not going to have the whole number, right? The real world reason to say that 5 times fast is that I'm actually looking at the models right here. So there he is. That's my sergeant for the squad. They are Games Workshop only made 4 different poses. That's it. So if you want to have a larger numbers, you're going to be using the same poses over again. They're armed only with bolt pistols and their bolters. They're pretty much the Stern Guard veterans with some changes that are pretty significant. They only have Hellfire rounds. They don't have any of their special ammunition. They don't really have access to any other weaponry. There's no special weapons, no heavy weapons. They don't have any sort of power weapons, anything like that. Your sergeant can take melta bombs. They have frag and crack grenades. Other than that, I mean, they still have they show no fear, Ultramarine chapter tactics, combat squads, so you can cut them in half if you had a full unit of, I believe, 10. You can cut them in half because their max is 10, so they follow the Codex Astartes. They also preferred enemy Tyranids, which makes sense. And they're all veterans, so they all have leadership 9, 2 attacks, all the same stuff. When it comes to their transports, they can either take drop pods or drop pods. Well, I can't speak today, and land raiders. The other cool thing is there's actually a data sheet, which is the St. Tylos Battle Force. So this allows you to take your own unique battle force. So it's Cassius, 1+ Tyrannic War Veteran squads, and a Storm Talon, and 0 to 6 Storm Talon gunships. All right, and this is where it becomes really cool. There is a restriction to that one where the Tyrannic War Veterans can't take drop pods, so you have to take a land raider. And there's actually a cool formation special rule. So with your Storm Talon gunships, they actually have the infiltrate special rule. Now this isn't because they're sneaky and all of a sudden they have like stealth gunships. No. In the battle for St. Tylos, Cassius hid them away. They were hidden away in another part of the city, and when the Tyranids struck, he had them come out of an unexpected corridor and start smashing into the big ones. They took down the flyers, took down the big ones. And you don't have to deploy them into reserve. And then if you do deploy them at the beginning, they're in hover mode. Now the other one is pummeled by fire, and this one is where they get really kind of nasty. So it says if a Storm Talon gunship from this formation hits an enemy unit in shooting phase, then for the remainder of that shooting phase, all subsequent shooting attacks made against that unit by Tyrannic War Veteran squads from this formation have the ignore cover special, which is devastating. Bolt shells on their own usually go through most Tyranid things like gaunts and gargoyles, and because everything's wounding on a 2+ from these bolters, ignore cover, you just start ripping apart units. Cassius is the same. They there was another rule, and I don't know where it went. Just give me 1 second here. There is another one. I must have missed it on these Tyrannic War Veterans. They have one more special rule that I missed. Oh, yes. Avenge the Fallen first. This is another special rule they have. It says all models in the unit have the Zealot special rule if an enemy army includes one or more models from Codex Tyranids. This is one model, and they become like Cassius. They get to re-roll missed hits of a 1 when they charge in. So yeah, pretty nasty stuff. Why don't we see a lot of these guys? Well, they're a uniquely Ultramarine force. And it's also hard for us to use if you use it purely as itself. You don't have a lot of models. Even if you do decide to pick up multiples and build a lot of units, you're still 92 points per 4 guys. The only transfer you have is Land Raiders, which are at base 250 points. But it's a really, really cool unit. That's why I love it. That's why I'm going to build on it. But yeah, so that's their Tyrannic War Veterans. So they are a really unique fighting force, a very cool fighting force, and one that I think gives the Ultramarines some extra character that they desperately need, other than just being, say, the Boy Scouts of the Space Marine chapters, right? They're an honorable chapter. They're the one that has maintained itself for 10,000 years in very high standing in the Imperium, and they suffered horribly because of the Tyrannic War, and this is what came out of it, these avenging angels of death that decide we have to wipe the Tyrann out from the galaxy. Easier said than done. The models themselves look fantastic. There's my veteran sergeant, he's holding a grenade, but you can see they have, he's got the symbol on one of his legs there, Ultramarine symbols everywhere. There's their own specific symbol, a Tyranid head with a sword through it. And you can see even their armor's battle damage. He's got scratches across the back of his armor. His face is ripped open a bit. You got this gentleman here, again, very cool, has the same symbols. He's even got a specialized dagger. I'm going to try and get this up here. It has a Tyranid on the base of the pommel. All right. And then we have another guy here. As you can see, he's got a bionic arm. He also has the same symbol, frag and crack grenades all over him there. Special augmented bolter. You can see there's a targeter there. So yeah, very, very cool unit. Very, very, very specific. Really good at fighting the NIDs. Also found that if you use it correctly with those Storm Talons, you can take out a lot of other stuff too. Taking the St. Tylus, you have to take a Land Raider, which isn't really a bad thing, especially since you've got things like the Crusader and the Redeemer. Having 6 gunships running around, that's a lot of aerial firepower, and since you can hit something and have your Tyrannic War Veterans hit it again, you can cause a lot of damage. And the Storm Talons can be armed in a number of ways, whether it's anti-infantry, anti-tank, a mixture. It's really all very, very cool. So that's it for this first episode of Warriors of the Grim Dark. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, like, share, subscribe, and we will see you in the next episode. I have another one specially planned. It's another rare unit, again, from my perspective. This time we're going with the Xenos one. That's all I'm going to give. That's the only hint I'm going to give. So until next time, guys, keep rolling those dice.